Hello, hello! Today I'm so excited because I'm going to show you exactly how I make my fire cider, and I'm not going to go into too many details about the specific benefits of all the ingredients in fire cider because I already did that in another video, which I will link for you below. If you're interested, you can check that out. So today is strictly going to be about the process of making fire cider. None of it is hard. It does take a little bit of time because you have to prep all the ingredients, but you don't do it that often. And just enjoy the process, honestly. Just put on a podcast, your favorite music, invite a friend over, or put on your favorite movie, and really make the most of it because it's a wonderful thing to have in your kitchen. Welcome to True Freedom Permaculture, where I show you all the tips and tricks you need to have a green thumb, even if you weren't born with one. Let's get started. These are the ingredients that I am putting in my fire cider. They all are organic. I do think that's best if you can manage it. I'm using 1/4 of a cup of fresh turmeric root, 1/2 cup of fresh horseradish, 1/2 cup of fresh ginger, 2 jalapeno peppers, 1 cayenne pepper, the zest and juice from 1 lemon, 1 medium onion, 10 cloves of garlic, of course your apple cider vinegar, and raw honey. You'll add this later on and you'll see what I mean coming up, but for the raw honey, start with 1/4 of a cup and you're going to add more to taste. You're also going to need a clean quart-size glass jar with a lid for this, and if your lid is metal, you're going to want to use some parchment paper as well. First, I'm going to begin by chopping up my onion and my garlic. If you notice while your fire cider is infusing that your onions or your garlic have turned bluish green, don't freak out. Now, it's normal to think that that's mold or something bad, but it's really just some compounds found in both onions and garlic that when they react to the vinegar, they can sometimes turn blue, green, or somewhere in between. So that doesn't mean you have to throw everything away. It's perfectly fine. As I chop everything, I'm just going to place it into my quart jar. Now I'm going to zest and juice my lemon, and I'm going to strain out all the seeds when I juice it. Now I'm going to de-seed and take out the white membrane of the peppers and chop them all up too. I would maybe consider wearing gloves for this part. I didn't, and I don't think that was smart because a few hours later my hands started burning and it wasn't the most pleasant sensation. So just a heads up there. Also, the gloves will come in handy when you're doing the turmeric because although not painful, they will stain your fingers because it's such powerful stuff. They will stain your fingers this yellowish orange color. So unless you have nowhere to be the next couple days, something else you might want to think about too. Next, I began peeling my ginger, and I just use a spoon for this. I think it's the easiest way. Some people say you don't even have to peel the ginger, especially if you're using organic, but if it's going to be sitting in a jar for a while, even though it's in the acidic vinegar, it makes me feel better if I take the skin off, and I feel like it will prevent some of the bacterial growth from forming if it's going to. Next up, it was time to peel my horseradish. As I mentioned before, I actually dug this out of my garden in the backyard, so even though I gave it a good washing and a scrub, I still felt like there was some dirt in all the crevices, so I just used a vegetable peeler to take that thin skin off. I used the same spoon I used to peel my ginger to peel my fresh turmeric root as well. It works great on this too. Now for the rosemary. Now the ginger, the horseradish, and the turmeric all needed to be grated, and I could have used a box grater, and you can certainly do that, but because I had such an amount and I had limited time, I just got out the food processor with the grating attachment and ran it through that. I added all of my chopped and grated ingredients to my clean glass jar. After all of the ingredients were in my jar, I took my apple cider vinegar and I just poured it all over the top. Next, I added my piece of parchment paper, and then I added my metal lid because again, you don't want it to corrode. And then I gave it a good shake. And then what I recommend doing is opening it again and topping it off with more vinegar, because you really want all of the ingredients submerged as much as possible in order to prevent bacterial growth. And I find that after I give it the initial shake, some of the ingredients settle, some of the vinegar settles, and it can just use the top off. Then I gave it a final good shake and it was ready to infuse. Your fire cider should sit for at least 4 weeks, but you can experiment with longer to get the perfect infusion for you. While it's infusing over the next month or so, make sure to store it in a cool, dry, and dark spot. Alright, so our fire cider has been sitting for a little over 4 weeks, and it's exciting because it means it's ready for me to strain and then we can start using it. So I actually ended up making a second batch because I had some leftover turmeric and ginger that I had to purchase, so I really wanted to make sure that it didn't go to waste. So I ended up making a second batch a couple weeks later. This one's not going to be ready though until, I put the date on this one, it's not going to be ready until the end of November, so it's still got a little ways to go. This one, however, is ready for me to strain today, so it's perfect because then I will show you the rest of the process here. So what I do is I take a bowl and then you have a strainer. You can use cheesecloth, you can use a coffee filter if you don't have any of this, but I think a strainer works well. Now, if you have, I remember when I prepped this, you know, I was shredding things, I was chopping things. None of the bits are too small. Now, if you have really tiny pieces of things, something like this might be a little bit too big, and you should use the cheesecloth instead so it catches everything. And you really don't want to leave, maybe like 4 to 6 weeks is good for this. You don't want to leave it any longer because then it'll start to break down too much. So all we're going to do is we're going to take this. I'm looking at the top of it. I don't see any mold or anything like that. I didn't think I would, but I just like to check. And I'm just going to pour this valuable tincture into my strainer. You might need some help getting it out with a spoon because I really filled this. Oh, and I can smell it. It is strong, but that's good. It means it's going to work well. And it's so funny because I do find that during the cooler months especially, I crave this. And if you would have told me that you're going to crave this pungent vinegar solution, I would not have believed you several years ago. But now that I've adjusted my palate and I've gotten used to it and experienced the benefits of it, it is something that I do crave. I also crave chocolate cake, so I can't be trusted all the time. But okay. So we have this straining off, we're getting our liquid into the bowl. I like to press this around with a large spoon. I have seen people use actual presses, and you can, and you would certainly get more liquid out of it, but for me, just the spoon and the strainer work just fine. Okay, that should be good for now. Let me make sure I get every last bit from this. You do not have to throw away this beautiful fire cider pulp that you've just strained off. You can use it in stir fries, you can use it in egg rolls or spring rolls. I've seen people add it to like Bloody Marys, either virgin or alcoholic Bloody Marys. They are really great. Just adds like a zesty kick to whatever you do. Just keep it in your fridge until you're ready to use it. And in fact, I store it in the same glass jar that my fire cider was infusing in. And I've even seen people freeze dry this and then blend it up into like a powder and put it into capsules as well. Or they use it as a seasoning. So if you had a big funnel, I was thinking I had a big funnel, but I really don't. This is the largest one that I have, and I was like, oh, I should go to the store and get one, but you know, sometimes you just have to work with what you have. So that's what I'm going to do today. So I have all of my strained off liquid. I don't know if you can see that. I don't want to pour it out in this bowl. So my fire cider is here. Oh, and I almost forgot the last ingredient, honey. And this just really balances it out, so it adds obviously an element of sweetness to it, and the honey's really good for you too. So let me go ahead, and you're just going to add enough to taste. Recommend starting off with about 1/4 of a cup and going from there. And remember, you can always add more. I'm just taking a spoon and I'm scraping out every last bit of honey, and I'm going to stir it around to make sure that it's well mixed in our vinegar solution. And this is a tincture, and some people associate tinctures with using alcohol. And I suppose you could use alcohol instead of vinegar, but the vinegar really adds a lot to this, and it has its own medicinal properties as well. And the other thing too is that when you use alcohol in a tincture, you have to be careful when you're giving it to children, people with compromised immune systems, etc. So I just really like using the vinegar in this, and I think it's perfect. And that way you can use it in things like salad dressings in the kitchen when you're cooking too. You're going to need to stir this around for a minute or two because it does take a little while for the honey to dissolve. Okay, so let's give this a taste here. Make sure you're using a clean spoon every time you taste it. Oh, it's good. It's really spicy. It's really good. I think I might just add a little bit more to this. You know what they say about a spoonful of sugar. Now the thing about fire cider is that if you don't have some of these ingredients, like for example, if you don't have horseradish, don't go out and spend tons of money on horseradish. It's nice to have, but you know, the part of the reason why I put it in mine is because I grow it, so it's so easy to have on hand. Same thing with onions and garlic. So if it's too much for you, either time-wise or money-wise, there is nothing wrong with you leaving it out. Same thing if you have just like an allergy or aversion to any of the ingredients. Truly make it your own. If you want to add something different, like next year I might add some thyme to mine, then try it. Why not? Different spoon. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, perfect. Okay, so to make this easier for me to pour, I am just going to pour this into a measuring cup because it's got a spout. So how much did I end up with? A little over 2 cups, like 2 1/4 cups from 1 quart-sized jar. Take my funnel. I've labeled my jar. People will ask how long fire cider will last, and I have seen anywhere from a year to, me personally, I've stored it for a little over 2 years, and it's been fine. And it depends on how you store it. Obviously, if you store it in the fridge in a dark colored bottle, it's going to last for longer. You can keep it out though. I usually keep mine out. I put it in a place where it's not going to get sunlight, so I put it in a cupboard. But that's been just fine for me because fridge space is high value real estate around here, so whatever I can keep outside of the fridge, I do. And just some things you want to watch for is, you know, you can see here, it's a little bit cloudy, but if you notice a change in cloudiness, if it starts to get really murky, if it starts to smell off, you will be able to tell if it's gone bad. So just keep an eye on it. By the way, what I'm using for a bottle here is actually an apple cider vinegar bottle. These are great because they're made out of glass, they're easy to pour, and yeah, I mean, if you're buying the apple cider vinegar anyway, you're going to have the bottle, so why not reuse it? So that's it. That's all there is to it. Now I have my batch of fire cider that's ready to go, and I'm so happy to have this again. I was so sad that I was out for a few months, but not anymore. I hope this video inspires you to get out there and make your own batch, make it your own, have fun with it, and you can know that you're doing a really fantastic thing for your immune system. I'll see you all again soon.